So I've often wondered how the Grabber all-weather blanket would do as a survival shelter. I keep it in my pack on hikes for the intention of using it as a survival shelter if I ever needed to, but this is the first time I've actually set it up as such. So we're going to take some time today and describe what I've done and talk a little bit about how this might do as a survival shelter. So there are a couple different versions of this blanket. This is the one that has the hand holes and the hood in it, so that you could actually just wrap yourself up in this as a blanket and take shelter rather than actually have to build a shelter. That's probably the first way that I would use this if I ever needed to. Just kind of wrap myself up in it, lay down somewhere, and be protected from the elements. But if I ever wanted to set this up as an actual shelter that I could sleep in, move around, and come back to, and so forth, this is kind of how I imagine it being used. Now, I do carry trekking poles when I hike, and those have come in handy. If you don't have trekking poles, you could probably just cut some branches to length and use those right there in the handholds. And that's something really cool that I discovered as I was putting it together. I didn't know that this would work, but you just pop that, in this case trekking pole, into the handhold. It stays locked in there, and then you get your line and go through that little grommet there to have your two stake downs. And I did that on the other side as well, obviously. And it was a pretty simple setup. There's really not a lot to it. If you know how to tie yourself a taut line hitch, which is what that is, then you're going to have no trouble setting something like this up. Basically, I've got about, probably 12 feet of paracord right here, going from that stake up through the grommet, and then coming back down to this stake. And again, I have a taut line hitch here, and if you've never heard of that, a taut line hitch allows you to slide this knot down the rope and loosen that up. And it's a lot looser right now. But you can also slide it back up to create the amount of tension that you need to keep your shelter nice and stable. So that's the only real important knot that I've tied here. If you know how to tie that one, you are pretty much set. I did that over here, of course, down to that stake and to that one. And then, of course, on these two as well, making it as adjustable as I need it to be to survive the night if I had to. Then down on these ends, we've got grommets on either end of the blanket. And all I did there was, since those grommets are pretty small and I wouldn't be able to drive a stake through them, I just ran a little bit of paracord, made a little loop, and that's just an overhand knot down there. About as simple as it gets. And here's a little bit of deer poop. Isn't that cool? And just drove that stake through that little hoop that I created. Real simple. And of course, you know, that just kind of hugs down to the grass. And this is a very, very basic rudimentary shelter, guys. If you really wanted to go the extra mile and we were worried about rain coming down here, then we'd build some earth up onto the, the actual blanket to try to seal that somehow, but we're not going to do anything like that for this demonstration. On this stake, I did the exact same thing as on the other. Just did a little loop using the overhand knot and drove my stake through that little loop. So that's it. That's the shelter. Of course, I've set myself up a little fire ring. I probably won't do a fire in this today. This is just kind of a little practice demonstration. And to see how big it is, I'll go ahead and sit inside of it now. And to give you some idea, this is about how much space I've got. Not a whole lot. I could lay down here, kind of curl up. I wouldn't really be able to stretch out and have a comfortable night, but I could certainly be protected from the rain, from the wind, from the snow, whatever the situation might be. And given that this has got a nice foil coating on this side, that's actually going to reflect my heat back onto me, especially if I have a nice fire going over here and a neat little reflecting wall over there, which I could build up. That would send the warmth this way. This would radiate it right back down onto me, pretty much trap it right in this general area. Of course, I could build up these sides if I really wanted to kind of seal those off, and even do some more over here with just some brush and some other things if I wanted to do that. But this is just a real simple and real rudimentary sort of emergency shelter that I think the Grabber all-weather blanket is going to be pretty good for. There you go. Thanks for watching.